I guess to start off with, if you could give us a little bit of background about yourself and of how you got into music, just to start.
Well, I think when I was very young, I loved music, but I was so capable, fortunately, of doing many things. And music as a career was not even a dream because it was so far-fetched. The idea was very far-fetched, which is actually strange because my grandfather is a composer and an ethnomusicologist, so you'd think the idea would have been closer. But until, there was a young Ghanaian movement, aka hip life, that went on, I did not see myself being able to participate in music till then. It was something that was clearly relatable. But it was still pretty much a passion that I hadn't seen beyond, that in terms of passion or my ability to write or want to engage. But I think I was in my first rap group in high school or secondary school to be more Ghanaian about it. And it was called Rebel Camp.
Okay.
It was sort of wetting your feet, but at that time I didn't go beyond my fears then. I was still dipping a toe or two, and but it was the first time I was able to share some of the things I'd written in a public space. And then I went to America, and I was dabbling more in the musical aspects, doing a lot with producers and just getting to know more about music and the creation of. And by the time I graduated from college in 2005, it became really real to me that I had the fork in the road moment where I had to choose whether I was going to keep dabbling and making nothing out of it and only having stories to tell my grandchildren that, back in my day, I was really good at this music thing, or really take the leap of faith. And I decided to take the leap of faith, even though I had a full-time job, or got a full-time job then in the non-profit world. But I took the leap of faith, and from 2005 to 2007, I worked on my first record. More like the end of 2005, but so for a year and a half I worked on it. And 2007, when I released my first album, felt like the birth of M.anifest.
How did you make that decision to choose music over your regular job?
I think I made that decision while I was still in my senior year in college. I made that decision without fully realizing it, because I was an economics major and I did not pursue any finance job. So that in itself was making it, because I wasn't looking for a career job. It was clear that was out of the question. I wanted a bit more for myself than to pursue a career job that I wasn't passionate about. I could have been competent in, but wasn't passionate about. So I think that the decision started being made somewhere in senior year by consciously not applying for a finance job. That was the beginning of a decision, but I still had to be practical. I was in another land, I had to pay rent, etc. So I needed a job, but I still was always about to be trying to work for minimum wage. So I got a job that was a great in between, something I was passionate about, was technology and community organizing. And so it was great in terms of that, because I didn't have the problem, which I can't wait to get home. At the same time, it was something I could commit to, and then that would still give me enough time to commit to this other endeavor or pursuit, which has now become the main thing.
How was that initially received at home by your parents?
I was never the guy to be asking permission. I was never the permission guy.
Okay.
I was the guy whose works would show more than my talk. I think the very first time my mom realized I was rapping was when I was in secondary school, and she came for some fun fair or something. He raps. This guy is into music. Wow. It's not just that he listens, because she knew I was quite the consumer of music, including the day where I was playing my Gangstar tape in a cassette in her car. And then I remember the song was Moments of Truth. The first lines are, you always got to watch the mother around you, and she was like, I was like, oh gosh, because it was so clear the beat had dropped and it was slow, and he was good. Was one of those MCs that enunciated very well, which is why I liked him. I said, oh, but you're like, what do I do? Do I change it to keep playing? Anyway, all that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think mine was DMX, but mine they ejected the tape and threw it out the window. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Note to self.
Note to self. Nowhere cool. Yeah.
So you said you worked on your album from 2005 to 2007.
The end of 2005. I'll say from November 2005 to 2007. I released it on September 11, 2007. So, yeah.
How did you? What was that first year like? That period like where you're trying to reach out to people, trying to learn the craft at the same time. Wondering if you made the right decision. What was that like?
That year was 4 years of college, masters, everything combined.
Okay.
It was amazing. It was like the learning curve was very sharp. I learned the tools of production in terms of I didn't have to go to a studio. I was recording myself, learned how to record mix, learned my voice, learned, all the technical aspects of it. It's like being a farmer. It's not just the idea of cultivating crops. You have to know how to. You don't need a tractor to be a farmer. You use a cutlass and a hoe. I think, and as a creative, sometimes you have to go to that very primitive aspect of your work, be able to control the means of production. It's so important. Yeah, you might not play the guitar or keys, but yeah, it might help because then you don't have to go somewhere else to say, I have this idea. You can actually generate the idea before later on. So I was learning all that, in that time. Still cannot play the piano nor the guitar. But I know a lot about music. I know about when the notes are off and all these things that, are important. The nuanced understanding of the technical aspects, which then was going hand in hand with working with inspiration. So I recorded maybe in 2006, I probably recorded over 200 songs. Just learning my voice and learning the process and just letting out all these years of pent up, aggression, creative aggression. So it was amazing in that regard. I'll say probably that's been the most important foundation of my musical career at that time period. Because I was learning a lot about performance too. That's when I was performing shows in a place in which I didn't have a zillion friends to come there and come and validate me. But I actually had to find validation through quality through strangers and a few acquaintances. So that period was very hectic, but it definitely created a foundation. Buying secondhand equipment from Craigslist. And finding that I don't need to be in a studio with this big of a board. I can have that on my Pro Tools interface on my computer on my small screen, and just trying to do more with less, and understanding that that's a big part of creativity, and not worrying about the fact that I'm not using a $10,000 mic. My first mic I was recording with was a Board mic. I borrowed it in somebody's studio mic, which probably cost like $100. And at the time maybe it didn't cost more than $250. My first album was recorded clearly on a microphone that did not cost more than $250. Whilst people were recording $10,000 microphones. So it had nothing to do with that. So then I had to learn how to really project how I wanted to do. No studio tricks. None of that, just learning to really do it well.
Yeah. You talked about validation, like your first show going, you're not really having a fan base of people that or your friends there. I guess at what point, or was there a point during that time where something happened where you felt like, okay, I can do this, like I feel validated, or I feel like I made the right decision on going?
Well, I think it's not one particular thing, but a series of different things. So I have a couple of examples I could give. Maybe I could give 2 or 3 of them.
Okay.
I think the first thing that happened was at the end of every year there's a weekly entertainment, the biggest weekly in Minnesota or in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities. It's free, so people pick it up. It's a weekly. It's called the City Pages. I think that at the end of it's tough for me to say whether it's at the end of 2006 or 2007. By the end of one of those years, they have, at the end of every year, they have a list called Pick to Click, where they'll pick 10 people, artists that they are picking you to click, that you are going to blow, you are going to work. Lo and behold, I was one of the 10. You know, I missed all these folk singers and rock singers and all that. You know, here I was, this hip hop artist.
It's pretty big in Minnesota.
You know, is it?
That's pretty big for Minnesota.
I know, it's just sort of, you know, that the fact that the work I had done the past year or something was beginning to resonate, that some tastemakers had decided that who I didn't know prior, it's not like they were my friends and I grew up with them, so they wanted to push me, you know. So these are absolute strangers, just based off what work I'd been doing in the Twin Cities in terms of music. I was put in a Pick to Click. It's like, yeah. I think that's you need that. You need a bit of that boost, you know, because that helps you get some gigs. That helps you, but you need that, you know, from something that is, you don't need it, but it's great to have early. So there was that. There was also a financially rewarding one, which was the fact that there was a company looking to do a Pepsi jingle, and I was recommended to them. They checked out my MySpace, they liked my voice and flow, and they called me to come help them work on this Pepsi jingle, and the one I did with them got picked up. You know, so that was validation. That's not only could I do my own music, for a very big company who wanted a very mainstream sound, my voice and my way of delivering stuff was considered very mainstream, that they used that jingle for their website for like a year, and it was on radio, and friends would call me from LA being like, yo, I had this Pepsi, is it you? I'm like, yeah, you know. So definitely that was maybe a second piece. I think the third piece was more intangible. It came through performances. It was just this feeling, this connection that I started to get. And then maybe even one show, which was like probably one show that was a flop. There were probably like 30 people in there, or 50 if I'm being generous. And I remember the show was about to start, and I was just kind of like, yeah. And then my manager at the time, who would DJ for me too, was like, guy, man, treat this like it's Madison Square Garden. So the whole show, that was our joke with the audience, like, yo, this is Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden, can you hear me? And I just went in, and everybody there had a great time, and I had a great time myself. And I knew that if in this quote-unquote dire situation, which shows a potential flop, not many people would have been there, I made a memorable experience for myself and everybody in there. I thought I knew I was also on the right track.
Did you have any mentors to help you navigate?
I think I've had numerous people who have said or done things for me, or said things to me that have influenced me, many of them. So it's hard to pinpoint one person, to be honest. I mean, there have been people I've met once, even so in the independent, you know, music scene in Minnesota, for instance. I definitely learned a lot from different people I encountered, promoters, indie artists. That's where I learned the idea of the independent artist, that grind was real and it was possible in Minnesota, because that's what it is. The largest independent hip hop label in America is there, Rhyme Sayers, you know, so that alone, you know, and seeing even what they were doing, you know, is definitely was motivational. Being able to have conversations with people on there who are able to talk 200 dates a year, not indie artists, you know, and clearly, you know, are doing pretty well, you know, have loyal followings, and I've built them over the years. So I learned a lot of that from them. I learned from even friends who had capabilities of doing, you know, Pro Tools mixing and stuff, just learning about, reverb, or learning about not pushing the mastering level too high, you know. There's a big argument that's been, not argument, but I guess you can call it an argument. There's a big discussion over the years that, you know, over the years people, they've been pushing the sound louder and louder. As if louder is better, but it's not necessarily better. It's just in a bid to improve the quality. Some people think making it louder is what will improve it, but that's not the case. Anyway, learning all those things from people who haven't indulged me. I learned a lot from my producer friends, you know. had a production crew then that we kind of created. We called ourselves Four Shades. But I learned a lot from all the guys, you know. And then of course I learned stuff from older people that I was also exposed to, like my grandfather, who's always been so committed in his work, you know, sleeps late, wakes up early. He's 94 years old, still studies and still consumes information and works as if he's trying to make it from being a bench player to a top, to a starting lineup. But he's clearly legendary. If I was him, I'd be on the beach in Prom or down. You know, my last 10 years I'll be going out with a bang, you know. Yeah, or maybe, you know, just doing some awful things I've never done before. So, anyway, all that to say, just seeing that is inspirational. Somebody concerned with giving as much of himself and as much of his talent and passion to the world. I think things like this. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of that in my life, yeah.
Okay. What made you move back to Ghana? What was the move back to Ghana?
Couple of factors. First factor being I never intended on staying there that long. It was always a thing where I was going to go to school and come back. It was that simple. So if anything, I stayed 5 years longer than I should have. If my teenage plans were anything to go by. So that was that. Secondly, too, I saw as my musical trajectory or my career trajectory was changing. I realized that there was a potential glass ceiling. That you need to go where the love is. Other place, and you need your foundation for that solid love that you can grow into something big. You know, if you are a person, if you make jet skis and you decide to go to Kumasi and you're based in Kumasi, a landlocked place, it doesn't make sense. I have to go to the coast. So if I am making music that is primarily and fully understood by Ghanaians and Africans, even though it can be accepted elsewhere, why not grow the base there? So there was that, but that wasn't such a huge driving force as much as the longing for home and also just wanting a place in which I could find better balance eventually and make better contributions and not have that same glass ceiling. I think America is saturated. The world is saturated, but America is saturated.
Yeah.
You know, the number of talented people who never make it in America because the right things don't happen for them. It's definitely not about to be one of those. Started getting more opportunities in Europe while I was in America that were way more significant than my American opportunities. So it taught me that, you know, coming back home was not going to derail me or stop me from being connected to the bigger world. If anything, I thought I could develop bigger credibility here and even artistic merit because I'd be in a place in which I could work with people who would understand my musical vision even closer, you know.
Was the transition during that first year in Ghana, is there that much of a difference between the music industry and the place music industry here?
They are night and day. There's certain similarities about being in the music industry anywhere, but America and Ghana are night and day. America's music business is probably a century or so old. Proper music business with labels, with lots of people who've been employed by this business for ages, who have office jobs, who are, you know, people who've become very wealthy based on other people's creativity or whatever. The business there has been a business for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of infrastructure. There's performance spaces everywhere in every state, in every city, etc. There is this culture of, you know, creative decadence, if you want to put it that way, which is part of it. People look forward to that moments where their favorite artists will say, tickets open to my next show, and then in 5 minutes it sells out because they want to be part of this memorable experience that they can say to their kids or with their friends. They can do all these things. That culture and infrastructure is there. In Ghana, you know, we love being entertained, but our regard for the arts is only now beginning to gain any kind of traction. You know, our regard for it is in as much as, you know, now we regard the circus maybe. You know, so there isn't that same culture and infrastructure. We almost are the ones who are now, you know, making it a reality. You know, it's almost like things went in cycles. Maybe in the 70s and maybe early 80s, maybe even the 60s with Nkrumah, but there was probably even more. You know, and maybe even in the 90s when they had producers like Kwame Despite and stuff who were selling hundreds of thousands of cassettes for the artists of the time. There was even maybe more of an infrastructure now where the internet is taking over, and then at the same time people don't know how to monetize, and you know, there's the sort of the understanding of value is just very warped, you know. So it is definitely night and day, but there are certain things that are similar in everywhere you go. Quality product always rises to the top. You know, being extremely good at what you do will always give you a leg, or hopefully 2 legs up. It's all, some of those things are basic. You know, being able to work with some of the best people is always going to help you with getting the best quality product or whatever it is you want to call it. So some of those things remain the same, but industry-wise, it's night and day. You cannot be a successful underground artist in Ghana right now. Not happening. You can't make a living. You can barely make a living as a mainstream artist. How much more underground? The idea where in America you can have somebody with a cult following.
Yeah.
You can have a Tech Nine who's now always on the Forbes list without ever really caring to go into the mainstream because his cult following is more important and it's even more lucrative because they buy as much everything, and you can tour maybe 100. That's not happening here in Ghana. Where are you going to tour? University students, they're listening to the people on the mainstream. They're listening to some people on the quote-unquote underground. Yeah. So there isn't that option here. But then there's the opportunity. Then it means that there's more to be gained. There's more development, and there's a potential business case waiting to be made for this market. Potential business case waiting to be made, and the potential business case that's on tap, or business market that's on tap.
Does the fact that this is Ghana is a predominantly singles market change your creative approach to making music?
It informs it.
Okay.
It has to. I'll be a fool to act like I'm in Europe or in America whilst I'm here. You know, it is a predominantly singles market, but to really have the kind of impact and quote unquote success that a person like me wants, I still need to make the album because you need to be able to reach way past Ghana. I think to be a successful Ghanaian artist right now, your music has to reach past Ghana. So that's the actual irony of it. It's sort of for you to have the value you need, you know, at least in the longer term. In the short term, maybe you can be the biggest thing here and you can do shows, but you have to work every day to eat. You know, in terms of doing shows and other things. Can't you be in the studio? Can't you create a masterpiece? Can't you go and play in other African countries, Europe, America? And so and those other places, the idea of a body of work is what's going to enable you to go there. It's still a singles market in the world. I mean, you can have a one hit, you can have Gangnam Style. You might be able to talk, but I don't know how that works exactly. Yeah. Whether, you know, people go to watch you perform for an hour to wait for that one song. I don't know how that works. All I know is just it is important to release singles in this market to keep people's attention and as the bait, as the hook. But it's also important to create a body of work because within that you can find singles, and within that too you can reach past these shores, you know, because then you're an artist that's not just an entertainer. And there's so many entertainers. There's nothing wrong with that one. I think you're better off be doing better at business when you're not just an entertainer but you're an artist as well, because there's more opportunities open. As just a Ghanaian entertainer, you might be very restricted because other people might not be interested.
How would you define success for yourself? Where if after it's all said and done, you're 90, you're in the beach in Pram, right? What type of career would you look back on and say, yes, I was successful, I achieved my goal?
I think first and foremost, I would have needed to have made music that's gonna outlast me. I can't. My music can't die before me. It's gotta die way. Hopefully, it never dies. But I want it to live way past me. Have that kind of be able to have pushed those boundaries and frontiers and change the direction of many things. Not for any vain reasons, but because that's what life and art should do. And if I've spent all this time into it, why not have that impact? I mean, personally, I also don't even want to be 40 years old and sort of having to scramble to make a living. It's very real, because desperation can create great art, but constant desperation can burn you out. I'm not interested in that kind of desperation. I think I have too much to give to be consumed by how am I going to pay my children's school fees. I can't afford rent. No, I want houses. What do you mean rent? So that's important only because if you feel a sense of progress as an artist, you can progress. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, after maybe a book or two, he wasn't whatever, but after 100 years of solitude, he never looked back. So it's important to see that personal progress, which will mean that eventually, I can be like Sade and once every 10 years I release an
album. How do you continue to develop your craft? Some people, when they achieve some level of success, they stop working, or they think, okay, I've made it, or this style works. How do you continue to innovate, to change, to grow as an artist, so that you're able to reach those external audiences, your Europe, your Americas, your Ghana, but also to keep those your current fans, interested in what you're doing and looking forward to the next level you put out?
Well, I was very aware of one fact very early. I've been very aware of it, especially since coming to Ghana. Is complacency is a creativity killer.
Okay.
When you're complacent, you fall off. Simply, you're going to fall off. Nothing worse than falling off, because it's tough to come back from that. Because people had enjoyed and experienced you, and somebody else will sneak into that space. Falling off is it's like complacency will make you fall off. You have to stay hungry. You have to. If you don't see any challenges for yourself, get into something else. I always see that for myself. I see the creative challenges. I see the business challenges. I think when I came, maybe a creative challenge was, how can I, doing the music I do, still achieve some notoriety? We did a few things to help that. We targeted Africa. We targeted the African media, Channel O, and it helped solve that problem. I didn't have to, use money. I didn't have to pay 1,000 DJs in this place to achieve a certain level. So yeah, you always, but now it's a different set of challenges to face. But I think most importantly, I stay challenged in the core of my core competency, which is the music. I write every day, in some shape or form. I've spent more time on music now that I should technically be better at it. I spend more time than I did before. In this current record, I've spent so much time in the studio. It's madness. If I look at it, we just want to charge people money to perform, because I know what's working out with it, and I know the value of what it is I'm doing. So yeah, I think that's how you stay. I can't let some young guy coming up be doing more hours in the studio than me and have more hunger than me. Nah, guy. I'm able to see enough challenges. And it's easy here to see those challenges. There's enough frustrations in Ghana for life not to be perfect, for one not to be complacent. No matter how much you've quote unquote achieved, there's so many reasons every day you're given for why there's more to be done. Every day.
For that,
I don't even have a driver. I need a driver soon, If I'm not paying one, it's important. I can't be driving myself. I know that because I can't spend time in traffic sometimes. Realistically, I need to be working through some of those times, so I need a driver.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For that young guy in the studio, even if it's in there, I mean, in a sense, he's at a disadvantage because you understand the business better than he does.
No, but he understands new things better than I do, because he understands something, a new idea that he needs and has to create to burst into the scene. The same way his level of the need for innovation is so deep and so desperate for him that he's going to have some ideas that I won't have. That my knowledge my knowledge of how things work won't have. He's going to be on Snapchat. I'm not on Snapchat. He's going to be on the forefront. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm busy in the studio. I'm not on Snapchat. But for him, he needs to be on Snapchat. And so he's killing it in that level. So if my music is not this, whatever, all these other things he's doing is going to be killing me. Because I have no time and space for Snapchat right now. I might maybe in a week, but he's already ahead of the curve. He might be, looking for the next, you get me? So we can all play with each other. He might sit with me and benefit from my experience. I might see him and be like, how is this kid on Snapchat, Twitter? How is he man? I'm like, how you might be inspired by this burst of energy and this desperation of being able, he might not feel like he has the resources to shoot a video, so he's trying to find new ways. So you can learn from whether you're on the verge of something great or whether you've achieved something.
For your loyal fans, is there anything they have to look forward to?
Yeah. I think I finally reached a point where the music I'm going to make is greatness proper. So I have to look forward to greatness. Otherwise, no greatness, I'm quitting, I can't. I'm not interested in 8 over 10. I'm not interested even in 9 over 10. 11 over 10, 10 over 10, 9.9. That's what I'm talking about. That's sort of the new. I'm interested in taking them past a new frontier, where I'm excited, and sometimes hearing some of this new stuff and saying, yo, who's that? Not because it's way much more interesting, I think. And I have way much more capability to execute a vision. That's the advantage from the guy who sits in the room by himself in his home studio is that I know who to call on if I need to do something.
Yeah.
If I need to do some guitar work, if I need to get them with some Asian percussionists.
And they say the longer you work, that you start working smarter and not harder.
That's what you hope, you know. But in the creative business, it's almost like, what does that mean? Because you have to stay sharp. Is it like riding a bike, or is it like being a swordsman? And it's questionable. You have to work smarter all the time. But I don't know if that substitutes having to work less. It means maybe having to do less of the more mindless tasks, the things that just exhaust you unnecessarily and actually take you away from the thing that you should be spending time on. And that's a big problem in Ghana. You have all sorts of mindless tasks that you have to spend time on. And if you find a way to work smarter, you can eliminate that or delegate that, hopefully, so that you can do what you're supposed to be doing.
I guess to wrap up, do you have any insights or advice or words of encouragement for someone who's sitting there listening to this interview thinking, I want to be there one day, I want to be on the stage, telling my message to people, pouring my emotion into my craft, creativity, etc.
If somebody's aiming to be where I am, is watching this and is aiming to be where I am right now, my first thing is you're aiming too low.
Okay.
Yeah, your aspirations need to be way bigger. Not because I don't think I've done anything right. Yeah, these are not my aspirations. And I would expect that somebody coming after me would want to do even way better. So first and foremost, have big aspirations. Have an appreciation of every different level of possibility, but you should be aspiring bigger. You should. You definitely should. That's number one. Because, what's the worst case? If you aspire to go to for instance, Venus and you end up on the moon, it's not bad. What's that statement they say? I think an ex used to tell me that shoot for the stars and you reach the moon. And so at least, you should do that. And the second thing is innovation, man. Creativity is important. You need to really not listen to people who want to tell you to keep doing the same things that have been done. Yo, this is how it's done. If you want to do this, do this, do this. Nah, man. if you want to come in with some innovation and creativity that's undeniable, you know, it will give you a leg up. Next thing you know, everybody's trying to copy you, but you will be the person that knows how to has that in your pocket, in your pouch. The one with the blueprints, you know. It's so important that instead of always having to conform, you're the one who comes up with a new thing. I mean, if we look at Apple, you know, and the whole Mac thing, it's based on that level of innovation instead of conformity. I think the next thing is the final thing is just the commitment to the work. You know, it has to be unmistakable. Your commitment to your work. You don't have forget fake it till you make it. Work it till you make it. It's got to be unmistakable. It's got to be I work, they snow kind of thing. They snow, I work. You know, it's got to be that. You know, because it's so important.
Okay, I get that, but as a young person, how do you avoid or stay away from not going and buying all the bling and the cars and stuff because that's what you see and that's what you think being an artist is about, right? For example, I went out yesterday and I came home and there's cars parked outside, right? And I'm like, what the hell's going on, right? And then there's like a Range or a Jeep or whatever it is, and I look and the license plate says shut up. I'm like, okay. And then I get out and it's like they're shooting a music video next door, right? But it's people when you see them and they're like chains and stuff, and I'm like okay, that's
yeah. I mean,
that's the perception.
Yeah, the thing about the music is sometimes people want to get out into fantasy world, so there's a bit of aspiration, which is why, you know, there's this age-old problem. Not problem. There's this age-old formula with things like music videos and stuff of projecting something fantastical. Sure thing, but you have to decide what you want for yourself. Whether you want to wake up in a new Bugatti properly, or whether you want to wake up in a new Bugatti only when you're shooting a music video. Like, do you want to have a level of success where you can have what people talk about, or do you want to talk about and pretend to have it? You just have to ask yourself that. You have to ask what you want for yourself. Do you want to do it for the gram, or do you want to do it for the real life? Like in real life, you know. Do you want to? These are the questions. You know, Jay-Z doesn't have to be on the Instagram. He is living the life people want to project.
Yeah.
You know, so these are questions you have to ask yourself. It's that simple. Maybe for some people this is just a phase, but for 5 years they want to enjoy their youth, their teenage or early 20s and chill whatever. But then that's it. I can't knock you, but they just have to realize the realities of it. That if you are earning money and you're buying out the bar, when the guy who owns a couple of bars and stuff is not even doing that, then maybe you have to ask yourself whether you're making the right investments. So, you know, maybe that's not your goal. I can't really tell anybody how to live, you know. Because some people have a, you know, I don't know when I'm going to go leave this earth attitude about life, and that's them. I just know that for me, and maybe for some of us, it's important that we grow our business because we put so much into our creative work that it's important that it yields more results as time goes on, and it's important that for that to happen, we invest what we get into it. You know, I don't need to. I think it is such a powerful thing for people to love what you do. I don't need to impress them any further. What we do is impressive. How much more do I need to buy $30,000 jeans? Yes. Do you know what I could do with that?
Yeah.
Spend like a week and I don't even. I mean, God, you know what I mean? I can have a time of my life I'll never forget. You know, so all these things I think is important. Invest in yourself. So you get to a point where that spending you're doing is not hurting your business. It is actually pocket change. That's my point with you, you know, because like I said, you know, I would be happy to be the guy who is like almost like a writer lifestyle where, you know, I can take 10 years off to find myself or find a new me because then I can afford it. Can you imagine? That's excellent. That's a great way that you would. Let's say as an artist you've done like 15 to 20 years of being in whatever you are, and you can say, I'm taking 10 years off to find a new something, and you can afford to because you've grown your business to that point. Sting, I'll give an example. Sting, that song "I'll Be Missing You," that in the original. I think he gets like $850,000 in royalties of that song every year.
Yeah, there you have it. Drops mic.
Drops mic. Yeah. So if Sting is not releasing an album, you understand. That's one song. Now he can take the rest of his life off if he wanted to. He won't make music out of financial desperation, maybe out of other life desperations. It's important that sometimes we're able to give ourselves these options in life. And it's going to be amazing that if you create bodies of work and do your business right, you can hopefully do that. So that's what some of us are aspiring to. Shout out to you, Sting. Every time Puffy's one gets played to, he gets to change versus Sting. Yeah, almost $850,000 a year from this royalties from this one song. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But that's
also their market over there. Because I don't think you get.
But what is stopping making music from here from having the world? Bob Marley's catalog, I'm sure right now, makes a certain amount of money a year, and he was never an artist in his lifetime that was that big, even in America.
He wasn't, but his music, everyone could understand it. Right now, one of the things I liked about your music is I speak God, I don't speak to you. Right? I can understand your music. There might be some bits and pieces that I don't understand, but at least I get it. Now the other musicians, unless it's God, I find it difficult to understand it, right? So in that sense, maybe their focus is on the local market. So I don't see how that can expand overseas unless it's to the Ghanaians or the diaspora outside.
Well, what is one of the most famous ever African songs? Mama Say, Mama Say, Mama Say. We don't. Who knows what that is? So I don't know if it's always true. Okay. It creates a new challenge when people cannot literally understand what you say.
Yeah.
So you have to let them understand a different language of it. With So Makosa by Manu Dibango, it is really kind of the alliterative quality or something that is so catchy that you don't actually have to understand what it means. So so it presents a different challenge. I don't think it's always people have to understand the language of it, not literally, but something else, and that's what Gangnam Style. Macarena. All we need, there was something they translated into a dance or something else that made an impact. So I wouldn't worry so much. I think that I always say music is communication, art is communication. And hopefully over the years you become a better communicator and it helps you succeed better.
Yeah.
But not everybody also is meant to communicate to, 1 billion people. You can communicate to 10 million people and still have a great business doing that. Those 10 million people love you and they will give you a career, and like the Wu-Tang one person might be willing to buy one single copy of an album for millions, which is what happened the last Wu-Tang. This is just amazing things, so you have to decide how. Recently a friend told me, Fiona, she said, with artists you have to go where the love is. You have to just realize these things. Not everybody has to be a global star. There might come a time where you maybe being an African star, being big in Africa as Beyonce or Rihanna is in the world, might be lucrative.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the case right now. I'm not saying it's not lucrative, but on the level where we're talking about
850
of a song.
From one song.
It's and that helps us. So, and it's not always just about business. It's also happiness too. Somebody might totally be happy being able to have a family, provide for the family, have a nice small home, etc., modest living, and make a living out of this. And maybe even when they are 75, they might have to go do a couple of shows a year. They might totally be fine with that. That's also okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There's not You know, can't live anybody else's dream or anybody else's plot, but you have to be aware and know that there's also better ways of doing things, so that, you know, just give yourself a chance. Because another thing about being a public figure, being famous, is a lot of people want things from you. And I think for me, a good thing to be able to do is to be able to actually help some people, whether it's family, etc. People come to me every day for something, whether it's strangers I see on the streets, or people that maybe I was in primary school. Because the expectation is I have the ability to help. And I'd like to increase that ability. Not that I would ever be able to help so many people, but increasing that ability to help. It just makes things a lot easier sometimes, because otherwise it's just dealing with societal back and forth, which are unnecessary, you know, sort of. Yeah, if you're famous, you're rich apparently. So I need to make that manifest in my life. It's part of my business plan.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.